So, when the day was finally came, is Metal Gear 5, The Phantom Pain, worth $60? Does it live up to the absolute hype that everybody was succeeding? Oh, did it live up to my hype? Let's find out.
Came as some surprise. I spoke into his eyes. I thought you died alone a long, long time ago. Oh no, not me. I never lost control. Your face, two-face. The man who sold the world. I laughed and shook his hand and made my way back home. I searched for fallen land. For years and years I roamed. I gazed and gazed despair at all
Man, I have to say, when I was very anticipated for Metal Gear 5's story, I was really looking forward to being the most shocking and brutal and emotional and just downright just chaos story I have ever witnessed in a Metal Gear game. Going all the way back to Metal Gear 2, that is. I did play Metal Gear 2, 3, and 4, and a little bit of Peace Walker, and I absolutely love those games for the story. But this time around, the story for me just felt it a little bit dull. Felt like it was really missing something. But there are currently 2 chapters in the story. Chapter 1, which took me around 70 to 75 to 76 hours to complete Chapter 1 alone. And of course, Chapter 2, which gets you really, is supposed to be the best chapter of the story. It makes it a whole lot more rather interesting and taking things to the next level and passing chapter 1 by a long shot. But chapter 2 was for me a very, very disappointment in the story of the game. But chapter 1 was very exciting. New missions, new cutscenes, and everything was fresh and new. But the one thing I didn't really like about the story for me that I felt like that made the game a little bit of a letdown was Chapter 2 was repeating tons and tons and tons of missions, which I will get to later on towards the end of the video, and the reason why I'm that. But hence the title, All for Revenge. This, I believe, this happens a certain amount of years after Peace Walker, if I believe, after Snake has built his own little army base. And then he supposedly gets attacked out of nowhere on his army base. And that's really the beginning, or I should say Ground Zeroes. I never really played Ground Zeroes. I always wanted to play it, but I wish I can go back. I might go back and play it one of these days, but it pretty much leave off after Ground Zeroes. I believe, I don't know, about anywhere from about 1 to 2 to 3 years maybe after Ground Zeroes. I'm not entirely sure there. So it takes place after that, and now Snake, well, Big Boss, better known as Big Boss, have to figure out who set him up and why, and what is the reason behind that. So, for Metal Gear, it's always been a series that was very, very heavily on story and cutscenes. But this time around, they seem to cut down on the cutscenes and give you more gameplay, which is something that I actually wanted, but I feel like sometimes the open world of this game felt a little bit too useless to the point to where I kind of wish it was old tactical, closed indoors, certain amounts of space you can walk out of, combat rather than the entire open world. There's also some new characters. You got Quiet, which is a new character in the game. I felt like her story really wasn't focused on enough yet, even though I think a lot of people was attracted to her was because of her, skinny outfit, lingerie, which I have to say was pretty damn sexy. But I feel like her story could have been a lot more focused on. I feel like she was just there for, cosplayers to actually enjoy her and be her, when it comes to, the cosplays and Comic Con and whatnot. But, it's, even though Kojima already said he wants more exotic female characters, but with a story that's very, very more serious, that's such really more serious, just like Metal Gear, should really have a less tone of that. Not that I'm saying that the game shouldn't have sexy moments with characters in it, but it should really have been that focus on. Because I'm pretty much a lot of people probably couldn't take Quiet seriously because she's damn near her breast out. But the game somehow manages to keep that tone just at the right level, even though she's half naked sometimes, or even sometimes almost butt naked. And somehow keep that tone of seriousness within the story. Um, but with Snake's side of the story is really all about revenge with him and Miller from which is Miller from the Miller is from Peace Walker. You have Ocelot, which is pretty much like a really iconic character throughout the entire series, which is voiced by no other than Troy Baker. They seem to go back and forth on a lot of things within the story of no one to ride in. But sometimes in the story, I felt like it kind of went. Sometimes in the story, I felt like things kind of just went back and forth and went from moments of like, oh, we need to figure out who did this, boss, to this, to that. And sometimes I kind of wish that it just got right to the point. Um, but for me, the story was very good until Chapter 2, which I feel was really ruined. But this time around, I have to say, it's not necessarily my best favorite Metal Gear story. It's probably at the very bottom, to tell you the truth. But it was okay. Now let's move on to this one factor that a lot of people know of, and that's its gameplay. Now, the gameplay in Metal Gear is the first time when they first announced that they have revealed that they're going to be having an open world game for the first time ever in the Metal Gear series. I felt a little. I felt like it really couldn't be done. Well, not necessarily couldn't be done. I felt like I was scared for the game, pretty much. I found that it really. I feel like that the game couldn't have done it right, but it did it right in a certain way. But the game really the gameplay is really awesome and really good. Um, with the whole open world, you got different outposts, and the world is pretty big. But the only problem that I really have with the open world is that you can't really, there's nothing to really do in the world besides go out, um, go out to outposts, recruit some guys, recruit guys with higher, levels. Um, Go out and look for scavenge stuff for back at base to use for your resources and whatnot. Um, there was nothing that gave me a reason to go out and explore the open world besides doing main missions. There were times where I did come across some cargoes that had some resources that I needed for back at base, but that really was along the way for the mission that was really outposts that was really already marked. Um, but I didn't find the world to really be useful, uh, unless I was doing a mission. Um, but the open world gameplay is really fun with missions, and I couldn't wait to see what the next mission brought me. Some missions are very, very tough and difficult. That is actually says recommended on the top of it, like Chicken hat mode is disabled. Reflex mode is disabled. You just going in there with no stealth. I mean, you're going in there with no guns, nothing. You're just going there with your stealth and your skill. Um, which I didn't find difficult because I always play Metal Gear games. I always try to go in there at first and do stealthy like before I actually, you know, before things goes to shit and just shoot my way through. But the gameplay is really fun. I do have some minor gripes about the open world, but I'll get to that, like I said, a lot later on at the end of the video. But the open world is really great and fun, along with the graphics. The graphics are very nice. They're not nothing like too mind blowing. I like how they treated lens flare, and I like how they treated lightning on the characters, and on how it gets at nighttime to lighten up the rocks. The the sky is all nice and dark. I like how they set the right tone for it. You can sometimes, even in gameplay, you can even have weather storms will come to sometimes get in your way. Will be via sandstorm, which will blinding the enemy's eyes and they can't see. And you can kind of sneak by them, but be careful not to go directly past them because they'll still hear you and see you. And you have rain, which will give you a more chance to run through them without hearing you because of the rain. I'm not sure about footsteps though, because that was the thing back in the old Metal Gear games. If they seen your footsteps, they'll follow you to where you were. But I don't believe that's now around. I believe that's taken out. And lots of other things that the gameplay does very nice. It definitely is the best Metal Gear game to date in terms of gameplay, that is. And I actually absolutely love the gameplay, and that's something that will possibly keep me coming back for much, much more. Alright, next up is customization and playable characters from females to males. In this game, you cannot also play as Big Boss in the story. You can also play as female characters that you have recruited out there in the field, from males, from all different ethnicities, from I believe from Asian people to African American people to Caucasian people. It's really cool that you can play all these different ethnicities along with different males or females, which I found it really, really great. But when it comes to a cutscene, it actually switches back to Big Boss instead of the actual character, because it goes along with the story. But when it comes to actual gameplay, you can play as different characters you'll collect out there in the field. Also, for customization, the game has a lot of customization on it, in it. From customizing your base, you're in charge of Mother Base. You're in charge of how many people will get recruited, how many people you will unrecruit and kick them off the team. Certain things will happen, like they'll get in fights while you're out there on missions. Like by some staff getting in fights, they'll sometimes injure another one of your staff members. They gotta go to the sick bay to get help and stuff. And that'll level down your R&D or your intel team and whatnot. And then there's more customization to what color of the base that you want, what color of your helicopter. You can color the color of your helicopter, the color of your Jeep, your vans, your tanks, and to even customizing, kind of customizing yourself with different outfits you want to wear. You want to wear tactical, like army suit with different colors of terrain that you can use for, or you can just wear a sneaking suit. Customizations to the weapons, or the what kind of weapon you want to have, and the different magazines on it and whatnot. It's all, the customization is really, really possibly the best that I have ever been in the entire series, and that's what I really like about that. Acting has always been a big, major part of a Metal Gear game, even if it's just a NPC, just saying something. Acting's already always been just superb, but in this game I feel like it's in this game it was really, really good. I couldn't really remember I can't remember if there were parts of the game where acting was really bad, but the acting was really, really good in this game. Great actors from. I just only wish that they had David. I believe his name David Hager, or something like that. He didn't get a chance to voice Snake, which I kind of really, I really wish that they had him voice voice Big Boss, because it would have made the game really more enjoyable for me. But there was a reason why they did that, said Kojima. But what can you do? The acting in this game is really great, along with Quiet. I like the Quiet acting when she did talk later on. Spoiler alert, when she talked a little bit later on in the game. It wasn't like her acting was just right. It didn't sound like professionally done. Not that it's a bad thing, but it fitted her character for what she was. But the acting in this game was really, really awesome. Now, being this is a review later on after the game has released, I have been able to play a lot of Metal Gear Online. I actually streamed it. The Metal Gear Online it was just the Metal Gear Online. Once I seen it, I was like, oh my god, it's going to be amazing. But when I played it, it wasn't really much anything special. But Metal Gear Online is okay, but I never played. I didn't get a chance to play Metal Gear Online for Metal Gear 4 because they took down the servers and the game just a full single player game now. Um, so the mode that everybody plays and still plays is Bounty Hunter, which is kind of like your team deathmatch, where you have to go around and pretty much take out the other teams. I believe you start off with about 40 to 50 tickets or more, depending on which the host set it at, and you have to take them out. And pretty much is that whoever kills an enemy, they'll get a ticket or they'll get a bounty above the head with a skull. And pretty much for me, I was really kicking a lot of ass, so I had like 6 tickets for 6 kills. I kill people, so whoever kills me doesn't get that ticket, but they have to flute me. They have to flute I believe I said that right. They have to flute me, and then if they flute me, I'll go up in the sky and they'll take all my 6 kills from me and they'll add it to their chart, so they'll bump up, and then our team will bump down. So it's really I like the whole managing of that. It makes it match really more exciting and fun to play. But there are 2 other missions. I believe there's Silent Cloak or something like that, something with stealth, or like pretty much like capture the flag, or not capture the flag, but like hold your position and then capture the bomb or whatnot. But I didn't really like those other modes. I only like the bomb one where you protect uh, the spot, and then the other one. But for the silence mode where you go invisible, so it's kind of like stealth guys versus attackers. I didn't really too much enjoy that too much. But the multiplayer, it's okay. Only 3 modes at launch, and still 3 modes as of today. But I think they'll be adding a whole lot more in the future to come. And in the game, you also get companions as well. You get about roughly around 2 to 3 companions. You get D-Dog, and you get Quiet, and you get D-Walker, and you get D-Horse, which is the 4 companions. It starts you off with D-Horse. He's just your horse. I haven't upgraded him fully yet, so I don't really know what he does. So you just use it as kind of a traveling buddy. So D-Horse is your first one you'll get. You'll pretty much get the best relationship with him faster than anybody else. And then your second companion that you get D-Dog. D-Dog is D-Dog is a dog, which I think he's more of an optional, maybe an optional buddy, because you really have to find him somewhere in the whole Metal Gear. I don't know where to find him. I found him when I was doing a mission. Then I recruited him in, and he grows up with you. And then now he's I like D-Dog. He's really good. He spots people. Other like Quiet, with Quiet, she just shows you where they're at, and you gotta tag them with your scope. But with D-Dog, he actually spots them for you. But D-Dog is really useful. I unlocked his tactical outfit, so where now now D-Dog actually can go and kill people with somebody with his knife. He needs out his knife. I found that to be really awesome. And Quiet is really useful when it comes to just want to scope out everybody really fast. I actually found her to be very, very useful when it comes at home to when you're just want all the enemies at the base to turn their attention to her while you get the job done. I found that to be very useful as well. But sad thing about it, there's a certain part in the game where she actually leaves your side, no longer have her. So yeah. As for bugs and glitches, there's really I didn't really encounter any bugs or glitches or crashes, even in the multiplayer for that matter. It's a pretty damn polished game. Probably the best polished game of 2015, Metal Gear 5. There's one time where I actually got the game, I believe, the week after launch, and I did run into one corrupt save, so where it didn't save when it was auto saving, but I just saved it afterwards, so it wasn't really much of a problem. So I haven't encountered any crashes or glitches. But I think that's really good because the game is pretty polished up to the point. Even though there was some glitches where you couldn't proceed if you have Quiet as a buddy, but I didn't get to that mission yet, so I can't really speak for those people who have encountered that. But all in all, it was a pretty polished game. Now let's get into very bad things I didn't like about Metal Gear that could have been a whole lot better. First, starting off with Chapter 2 is terrible. Same missions over and over and over.
Okay, so here is the repeats of a whole bunch of different missions. If we look at this mission, Sir Infamous, and if we look at Operation, and then we look at Code Talker, and the War Economy, and pretty much Pitch Darks, all the one that says Extreme and Total Stealth, those are ones that you replay that you did before. Now, as you can see, here's the main mission that, once again, Sir Infamous, Code Talker, and a whole lot of other missions that have been repeated from Chapter 1 to Chapter 2 during the end of Chapter 2 from Chapter 1. So you get these missions at the beginning, towards the middle, Chapter 1, and then they start to repeat them again, actually very early on in Chapter 2, as you can see, because this is Extreme, Total Stealth. And they can repeat them all the way to the very end of Chapter 2. So there's about a total of maybe 5 or more missions that are repeated in Chapter 2.
Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention about it is that one thing about repeating the same missions, it repeated a lot of the boss fights in the game, and it made the boss fights not even unique anymore or exciting because he had to repeat them so much, so it kind of made the boss fight not as exciting as it used to be in the old Metal Gear games. Also, to note to that, there has not been much. There wasn't like anywhere from probably about 3 to 4 boss fights in the entire game, which is very little compared to the Metal Gear 4. Like had like at least 5 or 6 boss fights in that game. And they made that game really fun. So the game really calmed down on the boss fights, which was a disappointment as well.
I believe if I calculated it right, you do 14 missions from Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. What was the reason behind this? If I had to say so, I can completely guess. This was the part where Kojima started to have problems in the production of the game with the company of Konami. So I can tell that's around the part where he started to have problems with them. That's why a lot of the missions got repeated. I mean, you did same missions over and over again with the same cutscenes. I'm thinking, oh, why am I going back to this? Why am I going back to this? And it's the same missions. This time it's on hard mode or it's on extra stealth mode where you can't have any guns or whatever. Or tranquilizers. You just gotta go in there and sneak around, or sometimes even having side missions as the main missions for Chapter 2, which was, for me, I'd rather have a short game rather than doing the same missions over that I already did from Chapter 1 over and over. I'd rather have a shorter game. If that's the case, so let it be. If Chapter 2 has to be shorter than Chapter 1, then let it be it. But it really made the game, I felt like that was the biggest point in the game that really made me disappointed with the story, because Chapter 1 was so good. Chapter 1 was so good. It was new story, new missions. All missions are completely different. New cutscenes are different. And Chapter 2 came around with Chapter 2 being its main Chapter 2, the trailer of Chapter 2 is to be continued. Like, oh my god, I can't wait. It shows Quiet and stuff. I'm like, it's the same missions over and over. And I found it to be very disappointing for the story part of me. It was really, disappointing for me. The Chapter 2 story. It could have been a whole lot better. Like I said, there was supposed to be a Chapter 3, I believe. And in Chapter 4, I only think on Chapter 3. It's supposed to be a Chapter 3, but they cut that from the game. They already had the concept art for it and stuff, and then that got cut. There's supposed to be another mission called Peace, which is supposed to go along with Chapter 1. I believe Chapter 1 is Pain or something like that. I forgot the name of the chapters, but anyway. But I pretty much got cut from the game, and that's probably where the problem with Kojima and the company has went. But I was just very disappointed with the story in Chapter 2. It made the story feel really just boring. overall. I really lost the interest in the story in Chapter 2 because of the repeating of the missions. It was very hard to me enjoy it because for me, a lot of people, Metal Gear 5 was their first Metal Gear game. But for me, I've been playing Metal Gear since Metal Gear 2. I played 3, 4, and stuff. So I really know how the story was supposed to go and how it's supposed to lay out. But it was just very disappointing for me. I mean, no Metal Gear has ever repeated the same missions before, at least that I don't know of. But it was very disappointing for me, and that's a total letdown for me. So next up, Big Boss doesn't talk as much. It's not much of a big problem. Kojima already kind of adjusted the reason why he doesn't talk more, but come on, let him talk a little bit more. But for the ending for the game, there's kind of it is a kind of a good reason for him. The reason why he doesn't talk, but it's just I feel like the game would have been at least more interesting, even with the same missions happening over and over in Chapter 2. It would have been more interesting if he would have talked a little bit more instead of hearing him say little words here and there in the cassette tapes and in the cutscenes. But I just feel like he just needed to talk a little bit more. The menu is not that good. The menu, I felt like to me, was rather boring. I wasn't fully got used to it as well, and I'm not saying that the game was terrible because of this, but they should have just kept the menu like the old style Metal Gears with the hold R2 or hold hold L2 and hold R2 to bring it up, and you switch it down, and you got the little noise instead of just having this hold the left button, switch it with the camera button. I feel like I didn't have time to choose the weapons that I wanted because I was such in a panic. Oh my god, where's this? And I forget where it was, and I'm dying because of that. So the next step for the disappointing thing is no more health bars. Why? Why is that? How did that even happen? There's no more health bars. Like in all the Metal Gears, Metal Gear 1, 2, 3, 4, Peace Walker, they all had health bars with it says Snake at the top, or Raiden, or Old Snake, or whatever. You had health bars with either, and including Metal Gear 4, you had the psych gauge, which shows you your stress level. The lower it got, the more shaky Snake is. The higher it got, the better he is, and whatnot. So now we just have health regeneration. I hate health regenerations in games. I hate it because when shit hits the fan, you can't heal when you want to. You gotta go run behind a building, take coverage from guys shooting at you, and wait for your health to regenerate. And sometimes you have to wear better stuff to have your health regenerate faster. It was just really annoying because you couldn't heal when you want to with rations. So there's no more rations, no more canned noodles, no more food to eat that you can collect like in the old Metal Gear games. It's just all your health just regenerates, and I find that to be really boring because I really miss going to my inventory and eating the noodles and whatnot, or eating the snakes or whatever to regenerate your health like I did in Metal Gear 4. That's made the game so fun, but now you have this stupid health generation system. Health generating games are terrible. Open world can be kind of boring at times. Can be boring with nothing to do, really. I feel like if a game's going to be open world, it has to live up to that open world expectation that we see of games today, like Fallout, like games like Fallout and Far Cry and Elder Scrolls and things like that. That's so many things to give you a giant open world to play with, and you can do whatever you want in it, or have lots of things to do in it at least. For Metal Gear, I feel like the open world was somewhat useless to only show off the different ways you can approach a mission. I didn't find myself going out in open world trying to look for certain plants or certain animals to recruit, or I only find myself going out in the open world to do a mission to get people, or just do side missions, or to get money, or to get or continue the story. But I didn't feel like I was really in the world of the open world. It can be, like I said, a little bit boring at times, but not too much to do. I'd rather just have my old tactical indoors, linear, places than just having a boring and empty, sometimes nothing to do world. So for the last thing, the ending was kind of disappointing. It felt like, I'll just say this: the ending to this game made it felt like everything you did was for nothing. Like it wasn't even I don't know if I want to give it away, but I don't. It made it feel like it wasn't you. Pretty much, I'll put it like that. I feel like even though the main characters of the end of the game, they had that little secret talk um, at the end and whatnot, but I just felt like that was a little bit. It could have just been better. It could have just been Snake or actually Big Boss doing it, but the ending is very kind of disappointing. But it wasn't a terrible ending. It just was like, oh, come on, Kojima, you end the game better than that. But after all, I spent a total of 95 to 96 hours playing this game. Maybe 96 to 97 hours, almost 100 hours of completing this game. If I had to give the game a score, it was a great game. The story was very disappointing until Chapter 2. That was my big great fall, by the way, for repeating missions over and over and over. Like I said, if I had to take off 2 points from the game out of 10, it's because of the story was rather not as great, and then just the repeating of the missions made the story less serious taken. But I have to give this game probably an 8. I have to give this game an 8 out of 10. It's a good game. I recommend buying it, but in Chapter 2, there's a lot of repetitiveness. But this has been the Metal Gear story, the Metal Gear review. Hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one. And I will be doing some other game methods as well. Stay tuned to that, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
Fear